All right, here we go, man. Hey, so wanted to welcome my man, Hypoetical, San Jose native, amazing producer and super hip hop lyricist, man. Thank you, brother, for joining us today, man. Really excited to chat with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
really
appreciate
excited.
you guys having me, man.
So, well, I think probably good segue to start into just this story in terms of becoming a producer. Dave, I'll turn over to you just for the first set of questions that you had for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess like my first question off the top was like you known as being a producer, but also an MC. So do you have a preference for one over the other, or do you like doing both equally?
When I first started, was definitely about the rhyming. It was about the emceeing. Just because at the time I was just really into putting up lyrics, and actually I started writing poetry. That's actually where everything began. And as a big hip hop fan, I just started to analyze the lyrics of the rappers and just started transcribing actually some of the lyrics that I'd listened to, and then recite them back just to kind of understand the patterns and you know some of the intricacies of the art form. So I think initially it was definitely about the writing and the emceeing.
About what time was that? When did you first start rhyming and writing? Was that like high school years or even earlier?
Yeah, I'd say when I was about 16, because I think that was the peak of my listening.
Yo,
There comes a point where you're listening so much, and then you love the art form so much, you're kind of you want to be a participant. So I think that was kind of the beginnings of where it started, as far as being a little bit more creative with it rather than just being a passive listener. So I think in general, yeah, that's where it started. But I didn't have the means and I didn't really understand how it worked. So it was really just about those kind of first baby steps.
that's crazy,
Yeah,
man. Because we met in '97, right? So I think I started rhyming at the same time as you were, and then we met like 2 years later. So it was almost that we started on a similar path, and it was kind of fortuitous that we met at Santa Cruz and just kind of explored the whole rhyming thing together. That's pretty awesome. I didn't know you were already writing 2 years prior to when we met.
Yeah, I mean, it was just on the side, for fun. Like, I kind of grew up always looking for some kind of creative outlets. So, I just, at the moment or at the time, it was just about hip hop. So I wanted to, do something with it, but I didn't know how to rap or anything, man. But, the transcribing was fun, and the reciting the lyrics. That was actually a cool exercise back in the day.
well, no, Memphis credits you for putting them on to a lot of underground hip hop, right?
That
Mm.
so true.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
man.
I'm interested in that story, like how you guys linked up, and then how you ultimately got Memphis listening to some of that underground.
Oh yeah, man. It's kind of crazy because I think the first day when we set up at the dorms, I was just walking by the halls, and then I just heard some boom bap, and I was like, "What's this?" So I walked by, and then I just saw these two dudes, these two Filipino dudes, like kicking it in the dorm room. I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And then I think it was some Wu Tang playing, and I was like, "Oh man, yeah, that's." I just kind of gave him a nod, and I was like, "Yeah, that's dope right there." And then I know it was kind of the rest is history. I think that at that moment, it's like we knew that each other were hip hop heads, so it was really easy to bond. And at that point, it was like we're we're pretty cool just from that first meeting.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, yeah, so I was, yeah, definitely into, I guess, stuff that was more on the radio, and I had never heard any sort of underground rap at all. And so you introduced me to just so many different rappers, and it was just when Atmosphere was still coming up, and just folks from all over. So that was great, man. And just, like I mentioned today, that just blew my mind, and just it was another world that I'd never heard of, and yeah. And so anyway, I always credit you to the one who introduced me to underground hip hop, man. Really dope.
Yeah, I mean, I had my own little crew in high school that were really deeply into it, and they were actually the ones that influenced me. So I got to give a shout out to my boy Mike, my boy Mike Nguyen back in '95 or '96. He kind of turned me on to some of the Bay Area stuff because there was actually a pretty good scene in the Bay Area.
Hmm.
A lot of the record shops, had a lot of independent sales and tapes, and people who'd sell out of their backpacks. So it was pretty easy to cop it. So he'd actually get it from his brother who was a college student at Berkeley. So he had access to all the record shops. So I get all
Yeah.
the dubs, and he'd
Huh.
tell me what the artists were, and then from there I kind of just did my own research. And once I learned how to drive, I drive out to all the record stores myself, and
Yeah.
whatever money I had at the time, it was like, yo, I'm just gonna buy some tapes, some CDs, whatever I could afford, which was not much because I wasn't working at the time. But whatever money I saved up, it was just all music. So I brought all that stuff to college, and I wanted to share it with other folks too. So
Yeah.
actually, yeah, I don't know if Romello remembers this, but I used to make people mixtapes all the time because I just
Yep.
really wanted to share the music and just
Yep.
really want people to hear like another side of hip hop that they might not have been, accustomed to, I guess. And then yeah, it kind of just spread from there. And then the whole MP3 scene came in, and we're just swapping shit, and it was pretty dope, man. Like it just all happened organically. I didn't really have a mission, but it was just I just wanted people to hear the music. So I really appreciate that. They gave it the time.
Yeah, dude. And I remember you were also the one that took me to my first round of underground shows. I think the first one I went to was a Mystic Journeyman show with you.
Oh
And then,
man.
then I went to the Atmosphere show with you at the Cactus Club in San Jose. Just, oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really dope, man. And to your style too, I could tell it was very influenced by the San Jose style of rap. Like I think it was Daysman Empire is the name of the group, and Mega Abusive. I could see some comparison in those styles, man. So that was new to me. That kind of delivery and just the lyricism was unbelievable, man. So really cool experience for me that I got to see that firsthand as underground hip hop was starting to boom.
Yeah, speaking of the underground scene in San Jose, it's actually pretty funny because San Jose is kind of like the stepchild of the Bay, right? We're like the third city. It's San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose.
Uh-huh.
So we're always overlooked, and I think it just that we had that chip on our shoulder, and then I think a lot of the rappers, the styles came out, from being an underdog. So I think they kind of created their own unique flavor, which is what I
Yeah.
appreciated a lot about the area for
Yeah,
sure.
San Jose had some hitters, man. Oh man, yeah, you
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
you guys really had a dope scene, man. And there's that other Filipino cat that I really like, SON, back in the
Oh
day too.
man.
You introduced me to his stuff. Yeah, those guys all had some dope stuff. Styles Messiah, man, that was a great scene.
By the way, Styles Messiah he produced for 50 Cent for a while too, which was crazy. So
Oh,
that's a
oh
little
man,
history, a little history lesson there. Yeah,
that's wild,
but
man.
he came up, which is cool.
Man, that's awesome. Like it sounds like the Bay Area just had an amazing music scene in the '90s. Not just with hip hop, but a lot of great music coming out of there, like Operation Ivy and Rancid and early AFI stuff, and all, the whole punk rock scene that formed in the Bay Area there was
Yeah,
like hugely influential. I mean, there's just a lot of great music that came out of there in the '90s.
Dude, yeah, what's crazy about that? The punk rock scene is that my homie that introduced me to underground hip hop, he actually stopped listening to underground. He went straight to punk and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, he got really deep into that underground side too. So this dude was like on another level, man. But yeah, you're right. It was a pretty cool scene back then, and I appreciate being surrounded by it at least because it really opened my eyes to just not just hip hop, but just different genres and an independent movement where people were just slanging tapes out of their backpacks or at shows. So I really did appreciate that.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. See, I grew up in the DC area on the other side of the country, and
Oh, nice.
I did the opposite where I was in the punk rock scene and I was playing guitar in punk rock bands and all. I didn't start listening to hip hop until like late teens, and I got into it the same way with guys who were in the underground scene and the punk rock scene who were just like slinging tapes and trading them around like underground hip hop. And they always be like, "Yeah, you got to listen to this," and I'd be like, "I don't really listen to hip hop," but it was the underground stuff, and I'd take it home and listen to it. I'd be like, "Man, this stuff is pretty good," and that's sort of what got me into that. So yeah, it's like a merger of the two different underground scenes that was going
That's
on in
dope.
DC as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really dope. And I did notice that about, punk heads and hip hop heads. Like, there's really no beef between the two. In fact, they liked each other's music, so it was pretty dope.
Yeah, we had it. We had it. There was a period of time where we were all doing the same shows, where we'd have underground hip hop artists on the shows with like punk rock bands on the same bill. So
Oh man,
it was wild, man. It was a lot of fun.
it's all love. Yeah, appreciate that. That's dope.
When did you get into? Because you started rhyming at 16. When did you start veering into production?
Yeah, so I mean, the production side came later when I was about 19, 20, probably 19, I'd say. In college with Romello.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, it was just necessity.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody who could make beats. I didn't, there's no YouTube back then. There wasn't, no one had an instruction manual.
Yep.
So I actually just kind of pieced it together, just through a lot of listening and studying. Had some pirated software, couldn't afford it back
Yep.
then.
Did the same thing.
Yeah,
Really?
so
Yeah.
so yeah, the first piece of software that I must have owned it for like 2 years, bro. But I had this software called Acid Pro, Sonic
Yep.
Foundry
I
Acid
had that too.
Pro.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
God bless Acid Pro, man. For
Acid
sure.
Pro is the shit, bro, because
Yeah.
like the time crunching on it was just supreme, bro. Like you can throw any loop on it and it's just, it's looping right away and you just tap in the BPM and it's just set. And then from there I was like, oh man, if I can just figure this out, And then I
Yeah.
started learning about, drum loops and breaks, and then I would just chop those up, in the program, and then, eventually I got something going. It might have been just like a one bar repeating loop, but it was something, and I was freestyling over it for fun.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, the more I studied it, it was like, okay, so yeah, there's a drop here, there's, something changes here, and then, yeah, I mean, I was just self-taught, and I just played around with it really. But it was through necessity, man. Just had to find a way, right?
Yeah, I remember when we first linked up too. We were just using the instrumentals that you had, from all the different albums, and then yeah, we we started recording the songs in your dorm room, if you remember. There's like six guys just circled around, just trying to do a song, trying to get it in
Yeah.
one take. That was awesome. And then I know that you steadily upgraded, and you were the first one that was that experimented with producing beats, man. And yeah, I remember the Super Mario beat. Do you remember that where you sampled the game? And then, that
Yeah,
was
man.
super cool. And I was just blown away, man. So it was good that we had our resident beat maker because none of us were doing it.
Yeah, I mean, some of those early beats were terrible, but it was a way to just learn and, you know, try to figure it out.
I do remember you being a poet, though. That's right, and you brought that up earlier. And so that makes sense when we try to bring up we try to do those spoken word tracks, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah, for
that's right.
sure, for
I
sure.
remember the origin of Adriel and just forming your identity and everything you did reference to hip hop. That's really cool.
Man, that's super interesting. I'm always interested in how people got into production. I'm most interested in how people taught themselves, especially our generation, because there was no YouTube. You didn't really know many people who were making beats, and so you just had to teach yourself. And I know that for me, it just took forever. I would just just trial and error trying to figure it out. And yeah, it's just nowadays you can just go on YouTube and how to make beats and Fruity Loops, and you'll have a whole walkthrough. But you really had to want it back in the day. You really had to want to learn how to do it. So I did this exact same thing. Pirated software. I experimented with everything. Acid. One of the things I loved about Acid is you could just take the samples and you could change the key of whatever they were in to match. So you could
Oh
throw
yeah,
whatever in there. It was awesome.
yeah. Acid is
Yep.
underrated, man. Like I
Yeah.
don't. I think if more people had their hands on that, it would be way more popular because some of the features on that thing were just pretty insane at the time compared to Fruity Loops, where you kind of just dial in sounds. per beat. Acid, you can just loop things and put a bunch of samples together. I mean, early Fruity Loops, at least. The early Fruity Loops is really just really simple.
Is
Now
Acid
it's kind
still
of
around, or it's gone now?
I have
I'm
no
not sure,
idea.
man. I haven't looked.
Okay, I'm just curious. I found that one of the easier programs to use, but obviously I didn't dive too deep into it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was looking up. I think I remember Madlib used Acid for a lot of stuff back in the
Oh
day.
wow, that's
Yeah.
dope.
So yeah, what do you? What's your favorite program? Having used Fruity Loops, having used Acid, and I've seen your video online with the MPC and the work you're doing there. Like, what's your favorite production platform?
I'd say recently probably the MPC. I mean, it's much more time consuming. I'll tell you that. But I think the tactile feel just it's almost like you're playing an instrument, so you kind of feel more engaged with it rather than just pointing and clicking and messing with the timeline. Um, but yeah, I mean the production workflow is just super slow, so it was actually harder for me to release things as fast as when I had Acid. Um, but I think overall, just the general way to chop up samples and to actually play them on the pads was probably the most fun I had in a while making beats. And I did that the most for the past few albums that I made. Um, but then eventually I kind of I grew up a bit more and I had kids, so I had to find out a faster way to do things. So I really just used my iPad and I hooked up like a mixer and a MIDI controller to it.
cool.
So I to try and simulate that workflow because it was just so much faster to import files and whatnot. That I kind of maybe the last few beats that I've done or the last album was heavily based on iPad.
Wow, that's cool.
And who were you? Who are your major influences as you started doing production and exploring that realm? Were there any favorites that you kind of like try to model your style off of, or just big fan of uh, when you did that?
Yeah, I think when I was really deep into the Bay Area hip hop scene, there's a producer that I would say goes unnoticed a lot, but a lot of underground heads know him. His name is D-Ski.
Mm,
He was the guy behind I don't know if you guys know of like Arachnophobics.
yeah.
What else? He worked with Shapeshifters, some of those underground LA heads. But yeah, he was just like he was the coolest dude because I would order a lot of his beat tapes. Um, you know, he actually had one of the first websites, LA to the Bay. He ran that website,
Yeah.
so I would always cop stuff from him, and then he just throw on a beat tape like out of nowhere, and then I'd listen to it, and eventually I just became a huge fan of his. So I think a
Oh,
lot of the way he made beats I was really into, and he liked a lot of the melodic stuff that I did. So I really appreciated that. But some of the more mainstream, definitely like RZA. Like I love RZA's production. Like
yeah.
he's probably top three for me. And Prodigy, Prodigy and Havoc, Mob
Yeah.
Deep. Like their beats are just amazing to me, man. Like so
Grimy, man.
simple, but man, you could you can rap on their beats for days. Just put it
Yeah.
on loop. Really
Which
appreciated
we
that.
did. Yeah. We did that for many cypher sessions back in Santa Cruz. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, in general, I think the biggest influence for me was definitely just the Bay Area underground stuff. Mystic Journeyman and Living Legends and those kind. Hyro. I think
Yeah.
they influenced me the most production wise. But definitely, yeah, when it comes to East Coast, Mob Deep and Wu Tang for sure.
Sick, man. Well, dope, man. Well, hey, we talk about when we first connected. We linked up, 97, and then I think, we still kind of just experimenting for the first couple of years, and then we went on to record Impotent Mindfuck. I think that was
Yeah,
probably like 99, 2000 timeframe. And you did
right.
all the production for that album, and you rapped on that thing. and you killed it, man. So can you kind of just talk to me about what you were thinking when you put together the production for that album?
Yeah, for sure, man. Kind of like what we just talked about. I really would just like simple beats,
Yeah,
um, good loops, nice hard drum tracks, just something that's easy to rap over. Um, and yeah, I actually liked. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but my my beat tempo tends to be within like the 88 to 90 range, just because I
Hmm.
like to do double time raps. So I like to fit as many words as I can in a bar. So I think that's part of the reason why I produced it that way. But yeah, in general, man, I was just really big on digging at the time. So, and I mean digging like dirty, like 99 cent, 50 cent records at the time. I mean, I'm sure they're like $5 now, right? With inflation, but at the time I just cop as many as I could, and then just listen for hours, try to find something that I could loop, and then eventually I had enough to where Romello and I could make an album. So
yeah,
I'd give him the beats, he'd listen to them, and then I'd be like, "Yo, you want to rap on this? Is this cool?" And then we decide and then just go for it. But in general, yeah, I think the production was just inspired by lots of digging and trying to keep things simple, um, and have fun with it.
yeah. The production was super grimy, and I remember, we were in college at the time, and so anytime like I had time to go record, I would head over to your place off campus in that little outside room that you had. I don't know
The
if you
shack.
remember. Yeah, the
Yeah.
shack. It was like the extended bedroom out of that house that you were living at, and it was quite tight space, man. But we made it happen, and it was so much fun. I think there was like 10 to 12 tracks and very boom bap, battle type rap focused, and yeah, I just remember just kind of piecing that album together, and it was a great time. We'd have some drinks, record,
Yep.
and there you go. And then you also took care of the mixing and mastering and the whole album. And I know that kind of as we designed the album, we talked about doing the group tracks and that we would contribute with a single song, a single from each MC, which is what we did. And then yeah, you took care of all the magic, man. That was dope, man. What a great album.
Did you guys set out to make an album, or was that just kind of something that came out like you were just recording tracks and then decided, hey, let's keep going and put out an album, or did you start by saying, hey, let's work on this project from scratch?
That's a good question. Do you remember? I think we I think we did plan on it being an album, right?
Yeah, I think so because I think you were doing stuff with Jenna Luck at the time, and we're like, yeah, like I think it gave us confidence to do something, between the
Yeah,
the
and I
two of
think
us.
yeah, I think this album predates Scorpion Circles too. I think we did it maybe a year before or a couple months, but I seem to
No,
recollect.
I think you just finished Scorpion Circles,
Was
and
it
then I
okay?
heard it, and I heard it, and I was like, damn, this is dope, and I was like, yo, you wanna link up and try to do something together.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and then that's kind of when we decided, yeah, let's just do some kind of EP, or and eventually it just became an LP because it had 10 tracks, I believe. Uh,
yeah. So that was dope, and we were always rapping already before that. We came into Santa Cruz together, and then as you mentioned earlier, we kind of identified that we had similar taste in music, and then it was pretty much me, you, and a couple other guys that just spent like every weekend, probably almost every day, rapping, freestyling, and going from party to party, ciphering, and then at some point we were performing, and it was crazy. The Santa Cruz hip hop scene was so wild, man. Everybody was so cool. Hey, do you want to give your perspective on just the Santa Cruz hip hop scene in the 1990s? We had some heavy hitters come out of Santa Cruz.
oh yeah, for sure, man. I think in general, like at least when we first got there really wasn't too much of a scene, at least other than the shows that are coming out at the Catalyst or Moe's Alley, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I think that's kind of where the scene was at the shows. But as far as learning about you know local rappers or people who are in the area, I think we kind of just started our own little movement, like just by us, going into the dorms and just freestyling. And I think, most people don't know this about us in our little crew, but we had like this 20-track opus of a bunch of like, instrumental tracks from vinyl that we just rapped over and we just made tracks. Like we must have done like 20 of them, like so many. I still got the tape, bro. If you ever want a copy, but
yeah, I'd love one. I know it's floating around on the internet, and I'm like, oh, how did this get on there?
wow, it got out there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would.
Yeah. So I almost think like there were kind of like two separate movements, right? When we were there, it was kind of like what I call the UC Santa Cruz movement, and that was us, right? Over there, just doing our thing, and then we had sub colleges that were within UC Santa Cruz, and everybody was rapping. And then the local scene, I don't know if you remember the crew, the Moonies, and then the Earthlings. And we would always run into the Moonies at separate parties or at different parties. And then it was weird. We had like two different ciphers, and then found out there were multiple ciphers going on, and we'd come together for one big cipher. But those were the local guys who were setting it off, and they were great too. And they had that lost and found generation as well. That was also rhyming, so that was kind of cool. And then eventually, I think as we furthered our stay in Santa Cruz, we all combined and then just were seeing each other at different shows and then doing shows together. So that was really cool. And then even after us too, like Genelec came after us. He came in a year later. And we had this crew of folks that were doing rap, and then they had Asterix Rising was another group that came after us, probably 2 years, and they were doing their thing too. A lot of dope MCs, and then you probably remember Tantrum, who went on to set the battle scene on fire, and Remshot, who I'm still working with today. Amazing producer, has done a lot of stuff and has an amazing catalog. And Jerisa, I don't remember if you remember her, but female MC who was just amazing. So yeah, the Santa Cruz scene was just dope. And then Colin's crew too, man. Colin and them were killing it the year. I can't remember if he's a year or 2 years younger than us, but DJ Sembe and then DJ Dahi, all those guys were just representing for Santa Cruz. It was really fun time to be in school because we didn't have to do school all the time. We were just rapping all the time. Making music. I think I definitely skipped classes a couple of times to go make music with you. So that was really cool.
Hey man, I went on academic probation for the music. You know what I mean? You had to, man.
That was for hip hop, man.
That was for hip hop, bro. Like these albums wouldn't come out unless I was on academic pro. So shout out the education system.
Yeah, I knew that. That was dope, man.
Yeah, and no, that's cool, man. Thanks for reminding me because me personally, I didn't really get as involved as you in the Santa Cruz scene. It was just mostly around the college, right? But yeah, I remember those dudes like Top Ramen and Earthlings. Yeah, definitely. Those guys were dope. Oh, dude, they were throwing mushrooms into the crowd. You remember that? And Brian would pick some up.
Man.
That was insane, dude. Those are insane times.
And that was where, like, you took me to this one show. I want to say wasn't Mose Alley. What was the one that was downtown? The spot was it the Catalyst, right?
Catalyst, yeah.
So we went to a show there. I think that was the Mystic Journeyman show, but that was also when Top Ramen first battled Mega Music for the first time.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, and so I saw. Oh man, I know I saw their first battle together, but I can't remember if it was in San Jose or Santa Cruz. But yeah, that was mind blowing too. Holy cow! So really, really good times to be listening to hip hop in the '90s.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys had a great team.
Yeah, it was good,
definitely, man.
Hey, we forgot to ask him, Dave. Hypoetical, man. How did that name come around? What's the story behind your name? I don't think I ever.
Yeah, it's. Oh yeah, going back to what you were saying about poetry, like the name poet is in the name, right? Hypoetical. So the other half of it is actually hypotheticals and like hypothesis, right? So it's kind of the more logical side of who I am. So I kind of just combine the both, right? Logic and art.
Nice.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know how I thought of it at the time, but I was kind of sick of the names that I had because they were just kind of like pet names.
Yeah. We were still experimenting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't really have an MC name. So I just came up with that one day, and just from there, just kind of kept it. Still use it to this day, which is kind of funny, but it's there, man.
Yeah, that's right, man. I know we went through just multiple names as we were
Yeah.
coming up and developing ourselves as MC. It's, I don't know if you remember, I was using Forecast back in the day.
That was a dope name. I actually like Forecast. That was pretty sick.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah, I do like it. Yeah, and then I had mentioned that I just got into the whole Tang thing where they were using like alter egos, and I went with Memphis Reigns. But yeah, Forecast was pretty dope. I liked it, man. Hypoetical,
Yeah.
I really like, and then I like it. The nickname Hype, and then it just was really dope. Fits you real well.
No, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it just stuck after that. So
All right,
it's
man.
actually funny because some people don't call me by my real name. They just call me Hype. That's like at least
Yeah,
out here, that's all they know me as. So like
yeah,
they don't even, we're not even on like a first name basis. They're like, hey, what's up, Hype? And they're like, oh, hey, what's up?
yeah. When I talk to cats around the Hawaii scene too, you're known as Hype too as well. So
I
yeah,
know that's funny, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if some of them know my real name, which is hilarious.
yeah.
But that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I think I switch back and forth, but I do call you hypoetical most of the time or hype, man. That's really cool, man. Well, I forgot to ask you too when we were talking about the album. What was your favorite track on Impotent Mindfuck?
Yeah, man. Like so the quote unquote classics. Yeah, definitely like Footprints and 10 Things. But
Yep.
the ones that actually hold a special place to me are the conceptual ones where we were kind of acting. So I really
Mm,
love Mind Mechanics because we're acting
yeah,
like doctors and
yeah,
doing prescriptions and like some crazy mind shit.
yeah.
Um,
That was your idea too. I remember.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the other one, this one might be underrated, but I think Born and Deranged was actually pretty dope, man. Just you playing the detective slash law enforcement dude, and then I was like a serial killer because I could kind of actually get out of my comfort zone with that and try something like totally crazy. And I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know what people thought of it at the time, but it's pretty nuts to kind of enter the mind of like a killer and then, you know, battle you. So, those two
yeah.
tracks actually, yeah, those are special to me, man. Like they might not be like the dopest as far as, recognition, but yeah, definitely two of my favorites on the
Those
album.
were a really cool track. That was the first time I started experimenting with storytelling, and you were definitely the motivation behind those tracks. And yeah, that was great to do. I had never done anything like that before. I just wanted to spit the no topic type rhymes, and so that really just gave me an opportunity to put the pen to work and do those tracks. So those were fun. I think you hit it though. For me, my favorite two tracks were Footprints and 10 Things I Hate About You. And so, yeah, those are really fun tracks. And those are the ones that frequent online the most, which you smashed both those tracks. And you smashed every track, man, with lyricism. But those two really are standout tracks for me.
Yeah, definitely, man. And to this day, it's kind of crazy because I do get like DMs once in a while, and they're just like,
Yep.
man, like people just reciting the lyrics back to me in the DMs
Yeah.
and shit, and I'm like, whoa, like I did not think that people really, thought so deeply about some of these songs, but like I really appreciate that. So if anyone's listening right now, like, man, like that means so much to me. Even after all these years, that you guys would give me a shout out or just even recite the lyrics back because
Yeah.
at the time I wasn't thinking too much about the message or whatever, but like I would say at the time, that the messages were pretty close to me, and so
Yeah.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah, the hook was great. You wrote the hook, and just the back and forth on that was really fun to do. Really good song
Yeah,
for
it was,
you
it
too
was
as
fun,
well.
man. Yeah, it was
But yeah,
definitely
that's one
fun.
thing I got to give it to you, man. Your lyrics are always touching people, and you connect very well when you write. Very evident that you have deep thought in the lyrics that you write, and so yeah, I fully understand why people connect with the stuff that you write. Very introspective, and so that's how you've always been since I've known you, and you used to have been the kind of RZA of our crew too. So it's been an honor to share that journey with you. That was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to say much, externally, but you're right. There's a lot that goes on in his brain, so it just it was a release for me and just a way for me to express myself. Because I can't normally do that. Like I feel I can't normally do that in the outside world. So it was fun, man. Like just kind of having these experiences and sharing that with people. on a more intimate level. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Do you remember how we got the song 10 Things I Hate About You? Do you remember the origin of that track? It's a funny story. It's very non hip hop. And
I
I'm gonna
mean,
tell the
man,
story. Huh? You
it
guys
was just
you
kind
guys
of.
remember? Well, I said I'm sorry, say that again.
Oh no, it was just kind of funny at the time because I was just so, anti-materialistic and,
Yeah.
just totally against, the wave of hip hop that was being, played in the mainstream and just the things they would talk about. So I think that, that's where that came from at least.
Yeah.
And
And I
just a
came
lot,
up with
yeah.
yeah, for that one I definitely came up with the concept, but that was and I'm gonna tell you the story. Is I got the concept of the track and even the title name after the movie 10 Things I Hate About You. Very non with Julia Stiles, right? Do you guys
Yeah.
remember that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah, yeah.
do. That was hilarious.
Yeah. So very non hip hop. It was a great movie. But I took from that was that we're gonna do a song about 10 things I hate about you. And so that's how that title came about, which I always
You know what's
thought was
funny,
really
bro?
funny.
Is like I don't even think I had 10 things on that. Like
No,
it was just
probably not.
whatever.
But five plus five, we made 10.
5 things, yeah.
And we got through 10. So
Four
that's
things I
the
hate
only
about
thing I
you.
think about when I hear that song. Like I like the song, but I always think about like how I had come up with it because of a Julia Stiles movie.
No,
So
I
there
love
you
that,
go.
man. No, I loved
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah, it was hilarious. And it was a fun track to make, man. You
Yeah.
just gotta get your shit off sometimes. So that was fun. Appreciate that.
That was really fun. Dave, I don't know if you had heard that track before. You heard that album before we had met, or if that was something I shared after we connected.
Yeah, that was
Um,
something that you sent over to me after we connected, and you sent me a physical copy. So I have the physical copy, and then I've
Oh
also got
wow.
a physical signed copy of the Pendulum album as well.
Oh, is that
what?
Yeah,
how did
Dang.
that happen?
So, do you
yeah,
have?
it's personalized too. So like it's, somehow it got to me. I think you
Oh,
gave it
that's
to
dope,
Memphis, and
man.
then he sent it to me. That was probably like 15 years ago or whatever.
Yeah,
So
Wow,
right
was that
on, bro. Like I don't
you
even
have
know
the
if I
version?
have a physical of that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Was it you have the CDR version? Because we made two versions of that CD. One when we got a little more money, we got them professionally done, and then one was the ones that Adriel had just produced out of his bedroom, like the CDR copies. I don't
yeah,
know if
it's
you
a
remember
CDR.
those
I
ones.
have the CDR copy. Yeah.
Oh man,
Oh
that's
shit.
so cool. I
Yep.
don't think
Bro,
that's really
that's cool,
cool.
man.
Yeah, because the later ones they included the instrumentals, which became like a 20-something track album, but the OG one was 10 tracks burned out
Yeah, we
on
remastered
my
that one
computer.
too. The one that actually had the legit print on it.
Oh, you remastered that one, huh?
Yeah, I got a homie to do the remastering, so he did that, and then he remastered the instrumentals too. So that's why we added it to the whole album. So yeah, man.
Okay. And I don't think there was ever a D Mitch and Hypoetical track together, right? Was there?
Nah,
Man.
I don't think
Dude,
so.
all right, I'm trying to set it up right now. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. No.
I think it needs
We,
to happen, man. I
I
think it
know
needs to
it does. Well, now that you guys are both in the same space in Hawaii, man, you have to do the follow up to the album. That's what needs to happen
Yeah.
next. Yeah.
So yeah, so Hype took like a little break in between in between Impotent Mindfuck and I moved back to Hawaii 2017 to 20 and I try to like lure Hype back into making music, man. I always like, hey, come on, hop on this album, which I'm super grateful, right? Like you featured on two of the projects I did in 2020, right? You did Arcade Avengers with us
Mm.
for a track on there and you smashed it. And I can't remember what the other track was. I
Postscript to
think
Mars, I think, right?
Yeah, Postscript Mars. You did that on all the Skeleton Crew guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that
Oh, was that Skeleton Crew? Oh, my bad.
no? Is that a demon? Was that a Demon track? Produced track? I don't. No, it wasn't. No, it
I
was
don't
another
think
friend.
so. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so you did. Yeah, you did do Arcade Adventures. I thought you did another one, but if not, I think we got to put one together, man. I got to hear Hype on the D Mitch beat, man. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I took a hiatus, 'too. I didn't do anything for almost 12 years.
Hey, me
And
too.
then then slowly started getting back into it. So back into it now. So always
Yeah,
down to collab.
no, it was fun, man. Okay, and so we talked about like your influences on the producer side of the house. What about rappers, man? Were there any particular standouts that kind of helped develop your style, or ones that you just, were really a big fan of?
Yeah, man. I kind of mentioned a few of them earlier, but I would say, my biggest influences, at least, from the from the West Coast. So, dudes like AC Alone,
Yeah,
love Eli. Actually, I love Log Cabin, which is Eli
yeah,
and them before they were living legends. So Log Cabin was Eli, Merce, Scarab, Radio Inactive. Like that was like my favorite crew in high school. Um, Cats like the Shapeshifters, and a lot of like the Bay was actually even more of an influence for me. Just growing up here, or growing up there. Um, there's a crew called the Derelicts that not many people know too much about, but they were
yeah.
actually kind of like our Far Side. Um, so they sounded like they had this Far Side vibe to them, and man, I love that crew so much. But you really can't find their music anywhere because I think they were trying to get on a major label, but they just got dropped. So all they have are just mixtapes and tracks out there.
Well, I'll have to
Like
look it
Mega,
up.
yeah, like we talked about, Mega Abusive and SON, definitely some big influences for me um,
Yep,
in the Bay.
Mega's the man, dude. That dude is on another level, man.
Yeah,
Just,
Soul Sides, man, like Gift of Gab, man, rest in peace, by the way.
yep.
Love that dude. Like I grew up listening to his stuff. Swan Lake is just like my anthem, So I love that
Oh,
song so much. And then Souls of Mischief and Hyro, definitely.
yep. Oh man, yep. Most
On the East
definitely.
Coast, like I talked about, man, it was more on the Wu Tang side. Jizz and Riz are my two favorites in Wu Tang. Mob Deep, Company Flow, and all those dudes. A lot of the dudes on Raucous, like I really enjoyed listening to, and got
Black
some influence
Star.
from them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then can't leave out Rhyme Sayers, right? Like those dudes
Oh
are just
man.
on another level too, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Okay. Hey, what about your writing process, man? What are you usually doing when you create a song? Are you, you just take the pen and paper and you just kind of go to town, or do you start with a topic in mind, or do you let the beat drive you? Do you have any one way that you do music when you write it?
Yeah, I would say it's mostly based on the topic. Like if we're doing a track together and then we decide on a topic, I'll just that's kind of where I just kind of sketch the ideas in my brain first, and then it's actually funny because the way I write is just it's really technical. So I kind of just go like bar by bar, and then
Mm,
just based on the topic, I'll just kind of write out a line, and then I analyze the words, right? And then I'm like, okay, what sounds similar to these words? And then I'll try to like, develop interconnecting rhymes with those until I have like one bar, which is, staying on topic, but at the same time is like technical enough that where I'm like, okay, good, I can move on to the next line. But like, I'll just keep working on that one single line for a long time until I get it down to how I want it to sound, at least from a
mm.
rhyming standpoint. And then yeah, that's why it's kind of a long process for me in general because I really tend to overanalyze the way the rhyme patterns work, and um, at least later on, when I got more proficient with it. But in the beginning, it was just more like whatever, right? Just kind of scribble things. But
Yeah.
later on, it was just more like, yeah, I like to take it from a more technical standpoint because I want it to sound a certain way, and I want the words to kind of blend in with each other, and you know, um, at least rhyme on the punchline, or rhyme at the end of the bar properly. So yeah, that's kind of how I do things nowadays. But yeah, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but that's kind of just how I developed it and just went with it over time.
Yeah, very precise with the way that you do it, and I also watch you do the same thing when you produce beats. So really cool, man. Very calculated, and hey, man, it was well worth it, man. You got a lot of bangers that people ask about, and to this day, like you mentioned, I still got cats trying to get you out of retirement, and,
I
and
mean, I appreciate that, man. I do. really
We're
do.
gonna do that. We're documenting it, and we're gonna make it manifest. Don't try to get
Like,
hype on a D Mitch beat. That's my goal.
Yeah, we'll have the three of us collab on something, which it's kind of amazing that we haven't in
yeah,
all the years
Dude,
that we've kind of known each other.
I know, man. It's a small circle, man. So that's why I was kind of surprising. I didn't realize that we had never done anything together, but we've always known about each other, and you guys have. And I know you guys have connected on social media at some point.
Yeah,
yeah.
probably
It's
way
been
back in the day.
On
yeah. I'm
MySpace,
glad.
probably.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably my space.
Oh yeah, I know, right? For sure, for sure.
Well, super dope, man. And then there were two other albums that you produced on the side, beat tapes, right? Learning to Draw and Pendulum, which
Yeah.
are all over the net, man. Dope beats, man. Anything in particular that you want to share about those two beat tapes? What I think people need to hear that. And if you guys get a chance, look up Hype's got a Bandcamp with those albums on there as well. And I think there's another third beat tape that I think you produced on your phone, which is wild. I remember that being super dope too.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What was the question? My bad.
Oh, no, that's all good. We'll splice that out, man. No, and then for those beat tapes, was there anything special that you wanted to share about those projects, um, or what you were going through at the time when you put those projects together?
Yeah, I mean, so Pendulum was just, me experimenting and just kind of finding my style, right, for beat making. Um, I think that's why it has the most tracks because I just kind of put a lot of things together and just a lot of the
Yeah,
ideas that I had and just learning the process in general was
yeah,
kind of the point of that album, right? And then, we used a lot of the tracks on there for our album, so
yeah.
yeah, that was just the first time, that I could actually release some beats to the world, and um, yeah, it actually got a lot of love. So I do appreciate that for the people that have listened to it. But learning to draw was more like um, it was at a weird time because I had my first child, and my time was so limited. But I was just so passionate about beat making um, that I just had to find a will to finish it. So whatever free time I had. Um, was just spent on trying to craft the beats for that album. And the reason I call it learning to draw as well is because it was actually my first time trying some new equipment and learning the MPC, learning some new ways to chop beats. And so I released that album with those new techniques. Because I was learning at the time how to do something new. And yeah, man, it's just became a obsession really just to make beats, and I just really enjoyed it so much that kind of took over the writing side for me eventually. And to this day, I wish I had more time to do it, to be honest. But
Yeah.
I think I'll find some time eventually.
Yeah, we're gonna make that manifest, brother. Those were great projects, and there are a lot of heaters too, man. And I remember people hitting you up to use those beats for tracks. I remember the violin track too from Pendulum that somebody used, and then just I know their tracks scattered all over the place using beats from those projects. So that was really cool. And as you talked about that, I was like, man, that'd be dope if Hype and D-Mitch co-produced a beat, right? Where D would be play the guitars and you do the drums or something. But
Yeah, that'd be
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, because I've got all these I've all these one shot guitar riffs and stuff that I've written or things I've written on piano or whatever. And I've never put any beat any drums or anything to. So that might be cool to take like 10 or 15 of those and you can flip them like a sample or something.
Dude, that'd be
that'd
pretty
be
sick. Yeah, we should
sick,
definitely
man.
connect. We should definitely connect.
Yeah, it'd
Is
be
there
awesome
some?
because it'd be a way to do a sampling approach, but using original composition work. And that might be a kind of a cool project.
Yeah, there you go,
Yeah,
bro. You're bridging,
yeah.
you know.
I would love for that to happen. Do you still got to dust off your stuff, or is it already? Does it stay set up in the lab?
I mean, like I said, I kind of moved over to the iPad stuff, but
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah, I would just have to set it up. properly. Right now it
There
is
you go.
kind of, in hiding, but yeah, definitely got to pull it out. But yeah, I forgot to mention I do have one more beat album too. It's called Swing Shift. It's
Yeah,
That's right.
coming out.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one, yeah, that one was the one where I did a little bit experimentation as well, with the iPad, and actually played a bit of synths on there and try some new sounds. And that one was actually released through this label called Space and Sound. And he
Yeah.
just approached me and was like, "Yeah, we put it out for you," and then we agreed, and he produced some tapes. So that's out there in physical too. Excuse
Yep.
me.
I'm a proud owner of one of those tapes, man. I remember that
Yeah, yeah.
project. And then do you want to go into just the so you were also part of I think it was like an Eastern European beat collective or producer collective. Is that right?
Yeah, it's from Bulgaria.
That's right.
Whoa. Okay, this is interesting. I haven't heard this before. Like,
Yeah, so man, when was it? Maybe 2010, 2009. Uh, I was just searching on the net, and then I found, like, I was looking for instrumentals or something, and then I came across this website called Dusted Wax Kingdom. Excuse me. And yeah, my man VPD, who's from Bulgaria, like, I didn't even know where he's from, right? But eventually he told me he's from Bulgaria. I was like, wow, they make hip hop out there? And I was just tripping because a lot of the stuff was decent. It was like lo-fi kind of boom bap stuff, down tempo hip hop, and then and I was like, my music would probably fit pretty well with these guys. So then I told him, I was like, hey, here's my album. What do you think? And then he's like, yeah, man, this is perfect. And then he remastered Pendulum for me. He actually did my mastering after that on all my beat albums. So every album I made after that would be distributed on his website. And yeah, it's all free too. So if anyone looks up Dusted Wax, you can get my stuff for free on there. I don't charge for any of it. Um, and then yeah, from there we just kept in touch, and I put out everything that I made from that point on that label. But yeah, check it out. There's a lot of cool stuff on there, especially if you just want something to vibe to or rap over for fun. A lot of good artists.
oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, that was a dope project. And so, do you find yourself just still scribbling lyrics these days, or have you just been kind of busy doing the family and work thing? Are you still dabbling a little bit, or still kind of like exploring to see what kind of music is out there?
So yeah, I don't actually actively write, but I still freestyle in the car. I'll do that,
Yeah, heck
especially
yeah.
when I'm listening to some beats or. But yeah, nothing that gets written down at the moment. But definitely always got that creative itch in me. So when I do find time, I'll jot something down, or at least I'll have some like raw ideas floating in my head that I'll write down for future tracks, or just projects in general. But nothing really solid right now. Just kind of floating ideas out there, really.
Dope, man. I think I'll definitely after this, well, I'll connect you and Dave and potentially see if you guys get together for a co-production on the beat. That would be really cool and make me really excited. So
Yeah, I mean, I do want to. Yeah, I definitely want to at least try to get back into beat making in the near future. Especially because some of the projects I'm working on for myself are gonna need music.
yeah, and
Definitely.
aside from the music realm, man, you are also a producer of video games, right? You just released your first game. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, bro, because I grew up in San Jose, which is like the heart of Silicon Valley. So I mean, I was just bombarded by technology my whole life. My dad worked at Intel, so yeah, at a young age, man, like my first true obsession was video games. People might not know that about me, but every single dollar I spent, like how I spent in hip hop in high school, was video games, bro. Fucking wash cars, beg my moms, Dude, I got in trouble because I would like steal quarters from my parents, and I got slapped around for that. It was so bad. But kind of crazy how it all manifested, because recently in the past 3 years, I really wanted to do something different, man, because I was getting tired of making visuals and doing video work. So I got into programming, and I started doing web programming. I mean, you might remember Rap Makerverse, like a couple years ago. was like a
Yeah.
little side project I did for, just writing raps online. That was pretty cool and it was fun at the time, but I had to just shut it down because it just, it took a lot of time to do. And it was just more of a way for me to, practice, which eventually lead to, what I'm doing in the past year or so, which is actually making games. So I actually released my first game last, was it Monday, Tuesday or so?
Oh,
Oh
congratulations,
wow!
bro.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, so there's there's a game out there I call it First Person Hooper. It's basically it's a hoop game. It's an arcade game. I grew up in the 80s, 90s, so I went to the arcades all the time, and it's kind of one of those score attack type of games where you just fire up some basketballs and just score hella points, and it's fun, man. Like if anyone's into that kind of thing, check it out right now. It's on PC, Steam, and I'm working
Yeah,
on
I just brought it up on Steam right now. As soon as you said it, I just brought it
Oh,
up.
right
I
on,
see it
bro.
right there.
Yeah. There you go. There it is. And my soundtrack is the entire game. Like all the
What?
beats are on there. So you get the
Oh
hypothetical
man.
vibes. It's chill as fuck. Like you can zen out, just shoot hoops. Like I'm a big hoops fan. I go hoop every other day basically. So I just
Nice.
got inspired one day just to make a hoops game because I was learning game dev at the time, and then I just decided to go for it, man. So that's what I spent my last 5 or 6 months on, just working on. And
Super dope.
I wanted to release something because I had all this knowledge, and it's like it was time to release something. So yeah, check it out, y'all. First Person Hooper, got my music on there. It's pretty cheap, it's $4.99. So yeah, that's what I'm doing
Yeah.
nowadays, and definitely need more beats so that I could add them to my games. So
Yeah, man.
Yeah. There
That
you
is
make it
go.
cool.
happen.
Dude,
There
you're
you
one
go.
creative guy, man. One like creative, talented dude. This is impressive, man. I'm looking at it right now. This is pretty cool.
Oh, thanks, man. Like I really appreciate that. Yeah, I really don't have a life other than, what I do creatively, man. So that's kind of what I pour myself into, other than my family. It's just whatever I'm trying to create, I'll just put my head down and just work on it nonstop. Ask Romello, man. Like, I'm barely out there. I don't really do much these days other than just try to create stuff. But yeah, that's the latest thing. And I don't know. I hope it vibes with people, at least the testers and some people I worked with, like, appreciate the game. So I'm really happy about that, it being my first
Congratulations,
one.
man. That is a big accomplishment, man. Super proud of you, man. And I know all the trial and error that you went through in trying to put that thing together. So it's awesome. Finally came to fruition. So dope. I can't wait to support and pick up the game, man.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. What's funny too is that, like, I went to Santa Cruz to learn programming, but I had to change I had to change my major because I hated it so much. And it came full circle, bro. Yeah, it just came full
Yeah.
circle, and I found a love for it. So like I'm
Yeah.
just really into programming now, and yeah, all the graphics and visuals, everything, like that's all handmade, man. I did all the 3D work, so it's pretty much yeah, it's all encompassing, man. Like everything I've ever done in my life is in that game: music,
Yeah.
visuals, programming, everything.
Yeah. That's one thing I appreciate about you, brother. Is just you are a definitely a creator in all senses of the word. So that's really cool that, like you mentioned, it came full circle and you get a product that kind of covers who you are in the computer graphics world, music, and just creativity in general. So awesome, man. Congratulations again.
Yeah, thanks, man. Really appreciate that.
Very cool, man. But hey, brother, with that, man, any final words or what you got going on in the future aside from video games? Was this the spark to get you back into music? Did that work at all?
Well, it definitely got me thinking about music again, man. Because I'm gonna need music for my game, so I'm gonna probably hit up D Mitch for sure.
Yeah,
Gonna
yeah.
need
I'm
some
gonna
tracks,
connect
you know what I
again.
mean? So
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
yeah, definitely want to get back into music. I do, I just want to say thank you, man, to anyone who's ever reached out to me, like, or even just, even anyone who hits a like on my Instagram or whatever. Like, I really do appreciate y'all because, I don't really put myself out there too much. So when I do get support, it's like, man, it means a lot. Um,
Yeah,
and who is that, anyone who's ever even just took the time to, like, play my game, listen to my music, or, listen to our music, our albums. Yo,
yeah,
that's dope, man. Just to find people that actually dig what you do. So, that's the
yeah.
most rewarding thing out of all this. Like, I don't do it for money. To be honest, it's just just for the love of creating things and just getting stuff out there, man. Like it doesn't exist unless you push it out there. So that's what I believe. So that's why I always put something out. Like no matter the quality level, it's just get it out there, man, for people to
That's right.
hear, for people to play, whatever people to use.
That's good advice, man. The music speaks for itself, and it's obvious. Like I mentioned, I still hear from different people about where you're at, asking where you're at, man. So great, man. So thanks, Phil. I look forward to connecting you guys and seeing what Hype's got going to be doing in the future, man. Thank you for the time to speak with us, man. We truly
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks,
it.
man.
No, for sure, and it's good meeting you for the first time, Dave. For sure.
Yeah, man. Likewise. Won't be the last.
No, it won't. Yeah, we'll reconnect sometime, guys, for sure. This was fun.
Let's do it.